Right, it's 5 o'clock. If I could call the Pump Storage Advisory Committee meeting to order. If everyone could just take a quick moment of reflection. Thank you. Uh, Does anyone have any disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof? Nope. Okay. Um, Public participation. Members of the public are encouraged to provide the committee with their comments and questions. Presentations must be pre-arranged with the project administrator, pump storage project, before the agenda is released. Members of the public who wish to make a deputation about the specific agenda item at the meeting must register in advance with the project administrator uh, the day prior to the meeting. Presentations are limited to 10 minutes. Do we have any presentations this time, Sue? No, we do not. And are there any deputations on the agenda? No. Um, Thank you. Approval of the previous minutes, which would have been for May 8th meeting, as we didn't have one in June. Did anyone have any comments on no? Can I get a motion? Adam approving. Seconded Dave. All in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you. The meat of our meeting is the items for consideration. Just switching the order a little bit. I'm going to ask if Sean Everett could introduce us to and talk about the PSAC coordinator position and maybe make an introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair Haslam. I'm really excited to be able to introduce Miss Kim Wingrove to this table. Kim has had several years working. She was the CAO of Grey County, just recently retired. Had a lot of interactions with Kim over the years, and when the opportunity came forward to sit down with Kim to see if there would be an interest and an opportunity for her to take the lead on this file. She was excited to do so. July 7th, the last council meeting, I brought forward a report to council, which council gave full endorsement to bring Ms. Wingrove on and help us work with TC Energy through this process, in particular the community benefit agreement process. I know Kim can hit the ground running. Her connections that she has, not only at the municipal and county level, but also at the provincial level, puts us in a really, really good position to be able to move this file forward in a quick manner and build a relationship with the community as well as TC Energy. So with that, I just welcome Kim, and if you wanted to have any words, I'll pass it on to you.
Good evening, everyone. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here with you this afternoon. I'm looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you and to, delving deeper into the file and the work that's been done so far. Just know that I'm here to serve council and to serve yourselves. I hope that I can be really accessible to all of you. If you have questions or anything that I can help with, please don't hesitate to reach out. Maybe as part of the minutes, we'll circulate my contact information. But just, this is a work in progress, and whatever I can do to facilitate, make this committee's work easier, or to further the objectives of council and Sean, that's what I'm here to do. Okay, thank you very much. I'm really pleased to be part of the project.
And Sean, if I could ask, so Kirsten Higginson, who had previously supported this committee, has moved on. Just so that we know who the primary contact is that now Kim?
Yes, you, Chair Haslam. Yes, Kim will be the key point of contact. Kirsten is on leave, so TC Energy was extremely good to deal with. We have an agreement in place that when it comes time to cost recovery, I make formal requests to TC Energy outlining the business case of the expenditure that we were asking for. And in this particular case, TC Energy, with full support and approval, gave us the ability to enhance the job description to be heavy on the strategic and forward thinking side. And again, TC Energy was fantastic. So Ms. Ringrove will be the key point of contact.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Any questions from anyone on the committee? Nope. Okay, so we'll move on to, which is item A, which is the terms of reference review. If everyone remembers, back in May, we struck a working group to review the terms of reference that had been in place from when this committee was formed. We did that. It was Adam, Howard, and myself, together with Sean, met and went through it, and had lots of questions, and I thought it was a very good meeting. But now I think Sean would like to present to us a proposal of what we've come up with. So everyone's aware, I think at your seats you were given a red line copy. If you don't know what that is, it's from the original terms of reference. This highlights all of the changes so that and you'll see it's everything from periods and bolding to actual content. But that's what we've got, and I would think that's what we'll go through now. Sean.
Thank you, Chair Haslam. So first off, I want to just reiterate, I really appreciate the time that Adam and Howard and yourself, Mr. Chair, took to review the terms of reference. A lot of the changes and suggestions, I will admit, were more housekeeping items, but I'll go through and just sort of highlight some of the key pieces. I'd probably say one of the bigger key pieces was talking about continuing to have 9 public at large, which I think is absolutely essential. And this is number 2 of the general. The other key piece to the 9 public at large, the terms of reference currently identifies that the 2 members of council were non-voting members of council. And the proposal is that the 2 members of council become voting members of council. And that is something that we had good discussion around the working group, and thought that was a good option to take. Number 5, where we were at no more than 2 members of a group or organization shall be appointed to the PSAC committee. We just identified that at the time of submitting an application to sit as a member of the committee, the applicant must identify all past and current affiliations with interest groups, associations, or lobbyist groups that relate to the pump storage. So therefore, we're not limiting those members. Sometimes it's difficult to get volunteers, and just limiting the field of applicants. Sometimes we don't really need to worry about limiting that. So go through the majority of the other changes under general, and it's really just housekeeping. And it's, a lot of wordsmithing, but not too big of a change. Term of appointment, number 11, I would say the term of appointment of the members of the committee shall expire with the term of council. Every member of PSAC shall be eligible for reappointment by council. The original was as of January 31st, immediately after following each regular municipal election. January 31st isn't after the election, so the idea was at the end of the term, that's when this will expire. Under definitions, probably the biggest one here is under chair. we did change that the chair shall be appointed for a term of 2 years. And again, that was something through the discussion that we had with the smaller group that seemed like the 2 years was good. There was some discussion around each year, and then there were some additional discussions about, being the full 4 years, but it was determined that the 2 years was the best option for recommendation. Number 11, we have SON, which means the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. One thing we talked about was in our agendas, providing TC Energy as well as SON standing items on the agenda if they wish to come forward. That was something that I heard quite a bit. That in particular having TC Energy having an opportunity to be a standing item. So the vice chair. Sorry, let's go back to number 10 for quorum. We included that quorum must include at least one representative council. And that's something that is consistent with a lot of other terms of reference, just making sure that there is at least one member of council that makes for a quorum. Under purpose, again, a lot of it is just housekeeping, but I will say that in number 2A, we talked about the committee shall conduct its affairs as being unbiased, constructive, and respectful. That's under A. B, to interact as appropriate with other associations and interest groups specific to the mandate of the committee. And then under number 3, the committee shall also develop a plan with the development and approval of clear and measurable key performance indicators that are recommended by the committee and approved by council. This was something that was discussed a lot about being able to have those very clearly identified KPIs to be able to report to council of what the committee is doing and showing the success and the progress that the committee is making. Under meetings, number 2, this is something that we've also heard. Meetings may be held in person. Meetings may also be held virtually or hybrid, where the technology allows for the virtual or hybrid method. Where the technology fails to be operational during a meeting, the meeting shall continue providing that quorum is maintained and the chair of the committee is able to continue their attendance and facilitation of the meeting. So this just gives flexibility where if for some reason the technology fails or just is not available, we can still continue to have the meeting. It also is where if we're in the middle of a meeting and the technology fails, if there is a quorum that remains in person, we can still continue to have the meeting. And, quite frankly, we're not holding the meeting up to try to get the connectivity back to those people who are virtual. So.
Yeah, and if I could just add that part of the discussion we had that I think will be of interest is our goal is still to have in-person meetings. We just want to have the flexibility if people can't be here, for instance, that they could still participate remotely. But the goal is to be here in person.
Perfect. Thank you. I would say the next one would be under mandate. Again, number 2, to facilitate respectful, accountable, transparent community engagement and provide a safe platform for public input. I will say that this room being council chambers, I'm a big advocate that this has to be one of the safest environments for committee members as well as the public. And just having that safe and respectful and accountable communication and relationship. This is sort of sacred ground in my mind. Not that there's been a problem, but it's just something that under terms of reference, I feel very strongly needs to be included. Number 5, to be informed by and review technical and social research on pumps energy storage facilities when made available. The key deletion there is the word gather. I think when we worked as a group, it was this group doesn't necessarily need to be the ones gathering the material. And I know working with Ms. Wingrove, the goal is for staff to be bringing more reports to this group for discussion rather than committee members feeling the need to gather that information. If there's information that, you know, this group wishes to have presented, it can be directed to staff, and then we can go and gather that information and present it to the group, which then would ultimately get presented to council as well. Number 6, to provide recommendations to council. Again, just a housekeeping piece. When I looked at the recommendations to the CAO, this group is actually making recommendations to council, not the CAO. Under administration, number 4 had the deletion of with council consent. The PSAC may apply for research, resources, travel, and other costs to further its mandate. Talking about this one, it was really outside of the scope. However, if there are pieces that we need to go and look at things, that will be the process that we have now in place with TC Energy, is because this would be a full cost recovery. The request would be made from myself to TC Energy to consider the ask and have them look at the providing the fundings to do that.
Does that, I'm just thinking through that. So does that mean that this committee is bound by whatever TCE will pay for, as opposed to whatever the municipality may want to pay for?
Great question. I would say that the first step would be to make the request to TC Energy. TC Energy has a very clear criteria for requests being made because we have to be mindful that TC Energy's use of funds is audited by the province, and TC Energy can only provide funding for those items that the province would approve. If there was an ask being made that did not meet the criteria, I would say there would be nothing stopping this this advisory committee making the request to council. But first and foremost, we'd want to make that request to TC Energy first. That way the taxpayers aren't necessarily bearing those costs. So it still has the ability through a report. And I would say the report would come through staff to council, making the request and developing the business case rationale for council to consider the expenditure of those funds. Under number 11, invited presentations. B, a standing item shall be identified on the meeting agenda template, providing up to 15 minutes for TC Energy to provide an update on the project status and provide responses to committee questions that have been submitted at least 5 business days prior to the meeting. That suggestion is being made just so when TC Energy provides an update or provides responses, they've had 5 business days to actually generate a response that they can provide a fulsome information. Any questions that would be raised during that presentation, however, would be tracked, and the expectation would not be that TC Energy would be expected to answer at that specific meeting, but those questions could be answers to those questions could be provided at the next meeting. Under C, a standing item shall be identified on the meeting agenda template, providing up to 15 minutes for Saugeen Ojibwe Nation to make a presentation to the committee at their discretion. I think the group felt strongly that having them have the ability to come to this advisory committee as a standing item was a very good idea of just looking at building that that relationship with Son. Number 15, no reconsiderations will be permitted on any motions. Council may wish to send a recommendation back to the committee if they wish for the committee to provide additional information. At this point, reconsiderations for a advisory committee, procedurally, reconsiderations are pretty tough. And if we're looking at the scope, um, um, the way anything could be brought forward would be actually council asking this advisory committee for some additional information. So it just, again, it's a housekeeping and it's a procedural piece that just makes these meetings a little bit easier to run. Under reporting, number 2, the committee chair shall make a presentation to council twice per year. Reports will include the overview of the committee's progress and reflect key performance indicators that have been established by the committee and endorsed by council on a yearly basis. Again, the group felt that twice a year was a good opportunity to keep council fully abreast of all the progress that this group is making. And then the last piece is the review of the terms of reference, which I think it's really essential for making advisory committees function really well. The committee shall review these terms of reference at the beginning of each of the term of council. Any recommended changes or additions shall be brought forward to council for consideration and approval. Again, I always look at terms of references as they're living documents. They can be reviewed at any time. I would say the one piece that needs to stay true is the scope. Everything else is more procedural. And if we find that a procedure isn't working, it's okay to reopen the terms of reference to look at how we can make that a little bit better. So again, it just gives us that flexibility. And then once again, term of the Pump Storage Advisory Committee is number 1. Every member of the PSAC shall be eligible for reappointment by council. Again, I think it's really important that members have the ability to get reappointed because it allows for that, consistency and being able to move the business of the committee where those committee members want to continue their membership. So with that, that gives an overview of sort of the high level points of the terms of reference. I think as a group, we thought it was put us in a good position to move forward and look forward to comments and members of the chair and Adam, if you have any comments that you'd like to have as well. To start the discussion, that would be welcomed. Thank you.
Well, let me open it up. Adam?
My first comment would just be technologically speaking, where is staff at with the ability to implement a hybrid meeting?
There's going to be additional funding requested through the 2026 budget for some upgrades to audio and the video. I think, we could relatively go to hybrid with relative ease. The issue that we run into is the live streaming and the recording of being able to, where a member is virtual, ideally that person would then be on the screen on the live stream, right? So people can know who's speaking. It becomes an accessibility piece as well. So I would say it is our intention to be able to get to a place as soon as possible, but also understanding that council will have to really deliberate to see from a funding perspective. It could be anywhere between $65,000 and $80,000 to do it because it is a full redo of our system. So I know previously in my former employment that It ended up being about $130,000 upgrade to be able to do it with all of the accessibility requirements that are required. So I know there's a lot of faces looking around, but that's just the cost of trying to be accountable and transparent, which is what we need to be doing.
Have at it.
Hey, I'm not involved in municipal accessibility needs, so that number is what that number is. I'm willing to aid in any way, but I guess just second question would be, has anybody from staff reached out to SON to see if they are interested in our standing appointment?
Through Mr. Chair, I have not yet made that request. I thought it was too preliminary until this advisory committee made the decision if that was actually going to be approved in the terms of reference.
If I could just take us backwards just for a second. So when you say you're looking for that money in the 26 budget year, can you just date that for me? Like, when does that mean we would have something?
Through Mr. Chair, it would really depend on, we are anticipating the budget draft being ready late November, early December. We're also expecting that probably in January, February is when we want to have those council deliberations. We're still working on that time frame, but realistically speaking, you're probably April 2026. Depending on how the budget deliberations go.
Right. Any other questions? Jenny?
Sidebar, but given that we're looking at terms referencing, would they ever consider these being paid positions?
Like PSAC members?
Yeah. Given that it's gonna go on so long. I don't know, throwing it out there.
I hadn't considered that, but I'm not sure. I guess we can have a discussion.
Well, and now that TC has their funding, like, I just wonder how long this volunteering is gonna be going on.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like we're not near close to being done.
For certain, for certain. I don't exactly know how to approach that, but so let's table that, and maybe Sean, you've heard it. I'll let you take that.
So through Mr. Chair, and I've went through this process before, and what the most seamless way of doing it is a recommendation would be required to come from this advisory committee to council to consider the positions from PSAC to be a paid position. Staff can't bring that forward. That would have to be a recommendation coming from the members. It would require a majority vote for that to move forward. So.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Yep, Harley.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Mr. Everett, for taking us through this. A comment or two, first of all. I guess I'll start with mentioning that it is, for me anyway, I'm really glad to see SO1, Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, mentioned in this. I have felt all along that they are an important component in this overall proposal, and they've been noticeably absent from any involvement with this committee, and I'm glad to see that the door is opening here. I guess my other comment is, and this goes back to something that Adam has mentioned at least on 2 or 3 occasions, and that little four-letter word plan, and developing a plan that, I'm not sure that we've actually done that as of yet, and, I do think that would be of, a great assistance, to us. And my question is going back to Son and to TC Energy making a presentation. Would the committee give specifics or ask for specifics to come forward in the presentation? Or would this be a more general, generic presentation? I'm not sure just what we might hear from these two groups.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I would say that it would be most beneficial if there are topics or questions that members of the committee had, that those would be provided in advance, and the presentations from both groups would focus on those questions rather than just general updates. If there's an opportunity to have those groups come provide information that's specific to what you're looking for, because ultimately we always have to remember this advisory is the committee is the conduit between the public and these partners. So if there's something that we want information on, or we want to hear from those groups, and that really comes into that 5 days in advance of the meeting, we can get that. And this is where Ms. Wingrove could be receiving that information and then circulating that to the parties to say, this is what they're looking for. It'd be beneficial if your report actually, your presentation spoke to these. So.
Okay, yes, thanks for that. I'm just wondering, okay, we'll take TC, for instance. In the past, there have been a number of questions about the construction of the project. There have also been questions about environmental concerns, and they're two different topics, but related to the same proposal. I'm just wondering if you could bundle the two and maybe half a dozen others into one, or do we need to stay more focused, more directed to a particular subject?
Through Chair Haslam, I think we're in a position where it'd be very helpful to hear exactly the status of the project. I think there's a lot of confusion in the community as to where does this project actually sit. I've got some members of the public asking me, like, there were some dump trucks going up the road, are they constructing? Right. And then I've got others saying, well, why aren't these studies available? Because they're just, they're not making them available. Well, they're not there yet. Like, they're not even in the start of the application process. So, I think it's hugely valuable for there to be a update as to the status. I know this is something that we've talked about internally, of having a very clear time frame of what are all the key time frames in the critical path from where we are today to making application to getting feedback to getting approval to construction. So it's almost like that donation gauge of here's where we are, and that become the consistent message, and quite frankly the factual message, because there's a lot of noise out there. So getting that one piece of, or that one place that you go to get the factual information is critically important, of having the community feel that they can trust the process.
So Harley, I mean, I can give you a little bit of insight as to kind of how we derived that. That 15 minutes is kind of an indicator as to not necessarily to ask a question that's going to open an entire can of worms that we're going to want an hour-long presentation on. So kind of very concise, fairly, you know, specific, even just yes, no questions. Is this happening? Is that happening? An example, and I mean, those in the gallery might want to, because I'll be submitting this in a minute. Has any provincial or federal legislation changed any of their timelines or proposed environmental studies? You know, I'm not necessarily looking for elaboration on what they're going to do, simply a kind of a yes or no question, because that's a lot of questions that have come out of the community lately as far as recent provincial and federal legislation. So things like that were what we were thinking of when that 15-minute time slot came in. I mean, I remember one meeting, Ginny had a question and somebody from TC was almost sitting there with their hands underneath them wanting to answer the question, and we didn't have a mechanism for them to be able to do that. So this kind of 15-minute time slot will allow those direct questions to be answered. At least that was our intention behind that item.
And if I could also, one of the challenges though is we know studies have been going on for 5 years. We know there's preliminary findings. We know there's something, yet they haven't been able to share anything. And as I recall, the criteria for sharing it was upon approval. And while there's a bunch of money that's been approved, and I would hope that we would start to be able to consider some of the results of that. And we haven't been able to yet, but I think this committee is aligned that we don't want to wait until approval's done for us to be able to get some of the answers to our questions is really what it comes down to. Sorry, I interrupted you, Shirley.
Not at all, Mr. Chair. Thank you. First of all, I want to welcome Kim to our table. It's great to see you with us. Thank you, Kim. And I want to thank Doug and Adam and Howard for this terms of reference. I think along with your input, CAO Everett, we've really got the reset that we were looking for, and it really kind of changes the mindset, I think, of the members around this table. So it's a really good position to be in, and I appreciate Adam's suggestion of a plan, and I think we've kind of got the beginnings of that underway with the new terms of reference, with recognizing that we're going to have staff reports going forward and that we're going to be hearing from TC and so on. I think that's the very beginning of that process. And I think we've had a lot of good education to date, but now we're really ready to get into the meat of things, which leads to my question. Now that we have, and I assume we'll agree to what we have in front of us because I think it's really well done. So I'm wondering if we can take this a step further and start to really understand more specifically what the role of PSAC is going to be in the community benefit agreement process.
Through Mr. Chair, one of the key priorities for Ms. Wingrove is to develop the work plan, not only for her, but for bringing forward a proposal for this group and being able to identify and provide suggestions and recommendations of how this group can be an integral part of the development of the community benefit agreement, understanding that the community benefit bylaw was subject to the public meeting. There will be a follow-up report, I believe it's September the 8th, to committee of the whole as to what was learned through that public meeting and some recommendations moving forward. So this group needs to be part of that discussion about what is part of a community benefit agreement moving forward.
Are there any other questions? So are we just receiving this as what are we to do with the terms of, because it's really a council thing to provide the terms of reference, correct?
Sue does have a motion that's ready to be heard. For this to go to council, there would be a recommendation coming from this advisory committee for council to then consider approving the terms of reference.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The motion I have is that the Meaford Pump Storage Advisory Committee hereby accepts and approves the proposed changes to the terms of reference as presented.
Can I get someone, Adam, and seconded Bob Peel? Sorry, before we move on, Sean, you have a,
Yeah, just one recommendation. It would be probably best if it was receive and support, because this committee can't approve the terms of reference. So it would be asking council, this committee receive and endorse, and ask council to approve the terms of reference.
now, I'm gonna get twisted in a knot about amendments, so, this is not an amended, awesome, carry on. Can you read the motion for us too? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that the Meaford Pump Storage Advisory Committee hereby receive and endorse the proposed changes to the terms of reference as presented.
All right, can I get someone, Adam and Bob Peel will second, all in favor? Thank you, passed. Okay. Yes, Adam?
In anticipation that hopefully council will do this, I would like to propose some key initiatives right away.
Okay,
So Harley, for your idea of what our plan is going to be, I am putting forward part of it right now. As part of our first or one of our key initiatives, I would highly recommend that we meet with the public twice a year. Once to be here in these chambers as CAO suggested, and once to be out in the community. And I would suggest the fall fair for that. A forum where most of the community does attend. And that gives a chance for people who aren't necessarily able to come to us, but we can go to them. So I would recommend that that be one of our first key initiatives in engaging with the public, is by advertising those two forums to them.
all right, thank you. Is there any discussion on that? Dave?
I'm just a little concerned as to at the fall fair, what sort of control would be in place to run such a meeting or town hall type meeting.
Yeah. So, Adam, could you expand on what you were thinking for the fall fair?
So I would think that even the community center across the road, we could hold a public forum there where people are already in attendance, where if they wanted to come across the street, and whether that we have updated information for them or they have just the forum to be able to speak with us, that opportunity be given. I know in helping plan a lot of public events, when you put it at a very unique, very specific location, you will get participants, but you'll get the same participants that are eager to come out to every unique event like that. Whereas if you're going to an already planned public event, sometimes get opinions from different members of the community that might not always have their voice heard.
Cool.
So I just think that's a very important portion of this, is not always to expect people to come to us.
Yes. Sean?
Through Mr. Chair, one suggestion I'd like to make is, because we saw the success with the smaller working group for the terms of reference, this might be something that another working group you may want to put together rather than come up with things on the fly. I think they're great ideas. I think for this advisory committee to identify the fall fair without going to the fall fair first and asking, because that is their event. I'm concerned what that looks like of just inserting ourselves into that event. Obviously, we'd have to go to the fall fair to make that suggestion. So a working group that and I'll put Ms. Wingrove on the spot, that could work with Ms. Wingrove to look at what that plan looks like and what those first key deliverables would look like might be a really good opportunity because I think having a bit of a think tank of what those would look like offline and then coming back to the group might be an option we could consider.
Okay, so is there alignment that we create a working group to identify what the key initiatives are? I'm a little worried that we're falling into doing work outside of the committee. How many working groups can we have? Is there limitations on that?
The working group, I wouldn't suggest you have more than one working group going on at a time. Technically, the working group for the terms of reference is now ended. And I would never want to see a working group last more than a cycle of 2 meetings. They're quick hits.
Yep.
It just gives the opportunity offline for 2 or 3 members of the committee to make suggestions in a thoughtful way rather than on the fly. The other option could be at the next meeting, we could have an agenda item where people just come to this fulsome table and bring forward ideas and we make the decision. Either way works fine. Working groups, quite frankly, can expedite the business of the advisory committee. Because quite frankly, I couldn't imagine doing the terms of reference with the full group. And, this was actually ready to go at the June meeting. So it's just a suggestion that we can move things a little bit faster when you only have that smaller group and then present to the larger group.
Okay, but thank you, because that's helpful. Just one working group going at a time as opposed to let's have 10 working groups. Yeah, okay. Yes, Adam?
I think this is something that the full committee should be taking part of. I personally don't think this is a working group style. I think everybody should have a a voice at this one.
Yeah. I guess my thinking on the working group would be coming up with what those initiative as a proposal, just to get the conversation going so that we aren't in here, sort of flat-footed trying to think it through. Yes.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I wonder if I can be of a little bit of assistance here. With me coming into this new, I'm going to have to kind of get to a level set relatively quickly about the work that has been done and where various aspects of this project are at right now. I'm wondering if I brought back to our next meeting kind of that synopsis of where things are and the sort of the timelines based on the conversations that we have with the various players here. This is kind of where the approvals process, where TC's work is at, where other people's considerations are, to try and pull that all together into a document, I think, with some suggestions of, here's some likely candidates, if you will, for key initiatives. And then the committee can really talk about and think through whether or not, I've missed something or whether you're in agreement. I would like an opportunity to, to talk with each of you and just to kind of hear what's top of mind for you as part of that work. So if you're interested, I'm very willing to take that approach to kind of pull everything together as a way to kind of get the conversation started maybe quickly.
I think that's helpful. And if there's a document that summarizes what you find and where, and so we can see the snapshot that you are seeing, and then hopefully there aren't gaps, but if there are, we can help fill them. I think that's a decent idea. But Bob?
So my question to this is, are these to have informal Q&A sessions with individual members, several at a time possibly, Is it an educational forum to present? It doesn't really tie into our meetings, which are already pretty public. I assume I'm being recorded and being viewed by millions. But the idea of having informal questions from the public that are, less likely to show up in a public setting, and basically information gathering and information sharing.
To me, I see it as more of our mandate is supposed to be the conduit between the public and, council of this organization. And it also, it's very one way right now. We are kind of acquiring information, information is being given to us, and it's kind of percolating to the community through these meetings. Whereas the community, other than, yes, the 5 minutes that people, or 10 minutes that people have, but as we've noted, that's not been really taken advantage of by many people in the community. So if that's not really working to engage with the community, how are we going to, because there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions out there, and everybody should have a voice in this matter. So how do we go and listen to that voice? And to me, it is just it's a listen. It's not necessarily us dictating any information to them. But if we're supposed to be sitting around this table representing the community, I mean, I try and bring this up at all the events that I go to, but how much are we speaking for the community at large versus our own kind of personal bias or personal story? So I'm just looking for a mechanism for this group to be able to get that kind of larger voice.
Yeah, if I may follow up, is this where we take over a large room and allow an audience out front, or do we have a booth of some sort where people come walking by and can engage us in one-on-one conversation?
I mean, if we'd like to go into the nitty gritty, which I don't think that's exactly the job right now, but I would probably see it again, the idea of a little bit more control and the ability to kind of maintain that civility and things like that. The booth out in the public can kind of degrade into not as much of that. So again, the community center across the road, you're still at the public event, but you're able to kind of control the environment a little bit more. And again, or here, but allowing a specific, we go to them, they come to us, middle ground, as I think something that this committee needs to consider strongly.
Yep. One last follow-up is, it's going back to our very first meeting. Is this a place where we can have an accidental quorum? Is this a place where we have to, be careful not to have the wrong type of meeting?
We will definitely need to sort that out. And it may just be that there's a few representatives there at a bunch of different events, just hearing from people. I don't know the answer, but but we have to be very thoughtful not to have oops, there's a quorum. We're having a meeting for certain. Okay. So I want to make sure, though, that we wrap it up. Are we suggesting that we strike a working group to flush out some of Adam's ideas a little bit?
I would propose that in between now and the next meeting, whether our new coordinator, Kim, would like to meet with us individually, kind of consolidate some of the ideas for key initiatives, and then put that on the agenda for the next meeting. And then at the next meeting, we can have a full committee discussion with the information brought forward. That would be my recommendation. My earlier comments were simply to try to get the ball rolling with an example to, again, get this process going, Harley, because I agree with you. I would like to see a solid plan moving forward.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll do that. So thank you, Kim, for doing it. Because clearly, listen, we're supposed to be getting public engagement, and we've got limited public engagement so far. So we want to extend that as much as we can, and going at 2 people is a good idea. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, moving on. So in May, PSAC, I did a report to council that's been shared with everyone. Funny little story. As I was presenting, I finished. There's great applause. Everyone loved it. It was the best thing they had heard. Then it was noted that it hadn't been captured in video, and so it's not in the recorded record of the meeting. In fact, it wasn't broadcast, that there was a technical glitch. So one idea we had was me doing a video recording and doing it again. That sounds horrible to me. So what I might suggest is that I'll come to another council meeting and bore council, but let them hear it again, and we'll go through it, just so that everyone can hear it. But I shared the report's been shared with everyone. Everyone. If anyone has any comments, good news is I'm saying it again. So if you need to edit, I can. So please just let me know. Our next item is update on visioning session with TCE and staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're going through a few phases of doing visioning sessions. They are being facilitated by Strategy Corp, who is retained early in this process. We also have had those had this visioning session with the benefit of having a graphic recorder that actually, takes what is being said and what being heard and actually does a mural. It's a very effective way of capturing the themes. We are looking at doing a couple more of the phased visioning sessions. I will be bringing back information to the September advisory committee meeting on what the findings. So Strategy Corp will be presenting a report from the visioning session that I'll bring back to this advisory committee to help explain the findings of those. But very, very good session. Again, TC Energy actually had their executives come up and take part in the full day session. So it was very, very good. And looking forward to bringing that report from Strategy Corp back to this committee.
If I could, Sean, just what was the goal of the visioning session? Like, what were you trying to address?
So ultimately, I termed it a reset. There was little communication that was taking place between the municipality and TC Energy for quite some time. One of the first things I identified was, regardless of what people are thinking, there needs to be a relationship built so that dialogue can be ongoing, productive, and positive. So going through that was deemed as a reset of building the relationship and, quite frankly, developing an understanding of what the roles and responsibilities of everybody are. Who are the players? Selfishly for me, it was extremely helpful coming into the municipality and sort of getting fed by the largest fire hose in town, and ultimately wanted to build a relationship not only with the local staff of TC Energy, but understanding and getting to know the executive. So I think I have a far better understanding. I can tell you staff have a better understanding of what the roles and responsibilities are. And it really allowed us to put a focus on just how critically important the work is because, 5 years, essentially 5 years in, to be doing a reset should have been done a long time ago. But no better time than the present. So building that relationship was the number one goal. And I think it will benefit this group because I think, part of me thinks going through a similar session with this group is important as well. Because again, you are putting a lot of time and effort to sort of understand clearly where everybody's roles and responsibilities and where that hierarchy is, I think is extremely important moving forward.
And you said there's future visioning sessions planned?
Yeah, we'd like to do the one with council for sure, and then this one is another one that I'm contemplating that I think would be beneficial.
Sorry, are there any more with TCE or Or are you
Uh,
thinking council, TCE together?
No, just council, to get, sort of their concepts. And then, having one with this advisory committee I think could be beneficial. In the grand scheme of things, having a final with the different parties would be also beneficial. So, especially when, like, I'm excited in September, I'll bring the mural, because even for staff, it was refreshing to see that, at the end of the day, the philosophies are still the same. What the important pieces are the same between all the parties. It's just a matter of identifying them and figuring out how they're going to be considered and making sure that, everything is covered.
Any questions, anyone on that? No? All right, any committee inquiries? Adam?
And this came out of our working group meeting, kind of with you, CAO. Will the PSAC members be getting a municipal email address for various reasons?
Through Mr. Chair, yes, we are in the process of making sure that committee members do have the Meaford Advisory Committee email address.
When will we be getting that?
My goal is before the next meeting in September.
Okay. If the committee members aren't aware, it's important because the email address that these agendas get sent to are discoverable should something go on. And there's probably other things in your email that would be discoverable that probably aren't related. So the idea came up at our working group is that we should have each member would have their own municipal email address, which is where things would flow and everything that would be discoverable, assuming you don't choose to use your municipal email for something different, would be fine. And it's really just a means to protect the members of this committee. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just one point to add. It is critically important that members have that email address. I will say, if there was a time that, emails were being reviewed, and if there was at any point a stream that showed a personal email, those personal emails would then be included in a search. So any discussion, communication that is taking place for TC Energy Advisory PSAC, need to go through that email and that email only.
Yeah. Good. Any other inquiries? Nope. Okay, so we'll go on to communications. The committee will consider correspondence received by members of the public during each meeting. To share your comments, thoughts, or concerns with members of the committee, the public can send an email to pumpstorage@meaford.ca. When emails are received this address, they will be compiled into the correspondence list, and then which will then be distributed to the committee members prior to the meeting. The cover sheet of this list will be included on each meeting agenda. The contents of the correspondence list are not included on the public agenda to protect the privacy and personal information of those residents who choose to send in their thoughts and comments. So with that, on the correspondence list, there was correspondence. Does anyone have any comment on it? So one of the letters, what it was talking about was a call to council to reconsider the conditional support for the project. And that was primarily due to changes in some of the legal footprint that were when that was given. Bill 5 did not exist, and when that was given, the federal, I think it's C5, did not exist. both of those have, at least on the surface, a meaningful impact on what environmental studies might look like. And the call was, that letter that was sent to us was to highlight that and make a call for council to withdraw their conditional support. That's with council now at this point. But that was the context of that letter. There was no correspondence from TCA. I guess no questions were asked of them. Yes, Ginny.
So if I can ask, is council gonna formally respond to that comment? Or that letter?
I
How
would,
does that work?
yeah.
Shirley, are
Um,
you able to provide some insight? If someone from the community asks you to reconsider, how does that work?
So that letter is provided to council through our correspondence list. And it would need to be pulled from that list by a member of council and discussed at a council meeting. So that has not happened. So yeah, if one of us would have to pull that and choose to open that discussion. What I can share in relation to Bill 5 is that we have requested a delegation at AMO. We have not heard, I'm going to look for Sean to nod, we have not yet heard yet whether or not we've been approved for that delegation, correct?
Hot off the press.
Okay.
I just received the successful application to present to the Ministry of Energy at AMO. So we did get that.
Well, that's good news. So we will be formulating that delegation, looking for further information on Bill 5 and its impact on this project and on the municipality. So perhaps that opens a door for this committee to share comments that we can consider as we prepare that delegation.
Yes, Adam.
I guess just expanding on this, and again, I think that moving forward, that 15 minutes of time can help clarify these sorts of things. I think we should be asking, is this going to impact first before automatically assuming that, nothing is going to get done now, the project's going to get pushed through, the bulldozer is going to come in tomorrow. I think just stepping back and asking the questions first and getting a answer before we go too far into the what if scenarios.
The delegation for this meeting, will it be made up of just council and staff, or is there opportunity for PSAC participation?
The delegation will happen in Ottawa at the AMO conference, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, in August. I'll be attending. Sean will be attending. Are you attending, Harley? No, I'm not certain at this point who else is attending from council. Do you know,
Yeah, I'm
Sean?
not sure yet.
No.
No.
We will, whichever members of council are attending, we will invite them to be present at that delegation.
And just to follow up with that, only members of AMO and registrants for the conference can attend.
Got it.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we do typically invite our member of parliament, Paul Vickers, to also attend any delegation. So it would be my assumption that Paul will also be there.
Yep, Jenny.
My question, I guess, is for Shirley. So we had motions at the last, there's, I guess, 2 put forward. I don't follow council. Was anything done there at all with those motions? Was anything brought forward, or how, I don't know how your process works. What's the update there? I guess is my question.
And again, I'll look to Sean, but yes, those motions, well, Bob Baranski's motion was on the agenda and was discussed. And we did not make a definite decision on, on moving that forward. We accepted that for information. And but we did have, considerable discussion on that motion when it was on our agenda. Anything you want to add, Sean?
No, I think the key piece there was council received it for information. No further action was taken other than to take it as the information for future thought.
My next question is, but is that something that could be funded through TC, his motion for water testing, or why is it not just as something that council would want to do for the residents?
The discussion revolved around understanding exactly what TC Energy will be doing in terms of water quality testing. We understand that that will be required by them, so we needed further information from them to have clarity on what their requirements will be in terms of water testing, because we were also concerned about, duplicating efforts, and because even though the funds have come from the province, that is taxpayer dollars, there is, as we always say, only one taxpayer. So we want to be conscious of using the monies wisely. And so we need a stronger and better understanding from TC Energy about what their water quality testing will involve.
And did they respond to you?
We do not have the specifics on that at this point, but certainly we will be looking for that as they are prepared and ready to provide it. And I think that may be something that Kim can follow up with TC Energy during her conversations with them.
Just to help me, and this is a question, I guess, for Sean. When this committee presents a motion that for consideration at council, what should be the timeline where we can have, get resolution on what we've sent forward, just so we don't get into, well, we do a motion and then 6 months goes by and there hasn't been much action.
Yeah, so this discussion has been good. So through Mr. Chair, I think what we can do better is when there is a recommendation or motion that has been brought forward from this committee, when council deals with it, staff need to come back clearly with, here's what was brought forward, here's the response. So I think just seeing him nod, I think that's something that we can do much better with. And from a time perspective, we're trying to get it so it's quicker, like when it gets to council, from this to council, getting it there quicker so this board knows what the responses are. Because one thing that have found that it can be 3-4 months, and we got to stop that, where it's just, here's the recommendation, here's how council dealt with it, and then the next meeting, there's a very clear, this is the motion that council provided back.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any questions from the public? We have a question. Can you turn on your speaker? Sorry.
Thank you for allowing me to ask a question. The first question I have, I've got a couple, is Alien Associates was appointed as an advisor on the pump storage program to council. What happened to them? That is for this committee. Does this committee know what happened to Alien Associates who were appointed as advisors?
I can tell you that this chairman does not know. Sean, could you?
Typically through process, the question is posed, and if the board would like information, the board can ask staff to come back with that information for you.
Okay. We will get back to you because we will be asking staff for an answer on what happened with Ainley and Associates.
Thank you very much. Second question. I've heard a lot of lip service about communication with the public today. In May, I made an application through Kirsten to speak to the Pump Storage Advisory Committee. I provided all the paperwork and copies, etc. And I was turned down on the basis of talking about Son. I wasn't allowed to. And yet I hear Son being referred to in this committee today. So I said, well, if you're going to censor me, I won't speak. There were about 10 items in there, including financial evaluation using a master's degree in economics, telling you that this project costs $385 per megawatt hour compared to battery storage of $150 per megawatt hours. You could have had that information 2 months ago if your censorship, which was, as far as I can see, is wrong, had not happened. So the next month, I go and see the CAO. I say, what's the problem here? He said, well, I'll do what I can for you. I left the office. He said, have you seen a lawyer? You know, why didn't you go and see a lawyer? He might be able to help. So I left the office and I never heard a thing. I still haven't heard a thing. The meeting was cancelled. Before I finish the question, I'd just like to finish on Son. Son is not a member of Treaty 18, never has been, and therefore has not got any treaty rights to the range. That is the basis for my complaint. So having not heard from the CAO, having had the meeting cancelled, I said, I'm going to go to court. So now, because of the lack of communication of PSAC and my lack of ability to address and get answers, what do? I'm in court. Do you have any comments or on this?
Sean, did you?
Happy to comment on that. Because the discussion, for clarity, when the threat of legal action is made, there is no further comment. The concept or the idea of not allowing Mr. Ashfield to speak to this group, it has to be in the scope. And my understanding is there had already been presentations being made. So the procedure is very clear. Staff followed the procedure. But I will reiterate, when an individual threatens litigation, we're happy to discuss, but that will be through legal counsel. And that was made very, very clear. Member Ellis, do you have a question to that?
I just am kind of confused because we're talking about public participation and then it seems to take a real turn. Like isn't it open mic with all public? I just don't understand why it got so cut off with Mr. Ashfield.
So there's lots behind this story. I would suggest if we wanted to discuss it, we could, but this is not the forum. So, or lawyers.
In response, I'd say I never threatened legal action to the CAO. Thank you.
Just in response?
Thank you, Mike.
He just did.
All right. Thank you. Are there any other? Yes, Clark.
Thank you. I don't know whether, I'd just like to ask the question, do I have standing at this meeting for responding to some of the comments?
Technically, no, because Member Ellis, yeah. Technically, no, because council has not approved the terms of reference.
I understand technically that's true. So tell me what sort of leeway we have, because I think we've got some answers here.
Procedurally, there is no leeway, and that's an advisory committee. We have procedure.
Yeah.
I will admit, Member Ellis, as much as you're frustrated, it frustrates me as well, but procedure is all we have. So, and consistency, even the way we are proceeding with questions without going through the chair, procedurally, we need to get used to having that interaction.
The joys of being in a municipal politics. Yeah.
I'm telling you, we don't receive enough.
Yeah. Yes, we've got another public comment.
Question.
Question.
My name is Kelly Haslam. Thanks for the opportunity to ask a question. Does Kim's new role replace Kirsten, or does it replace the role of Ainley? Is Kim an employee or a consultant?
So again, we would typically have direction. However, this was actually part of the report on July the 7th that clearly indicated Ms. Springgrove is a consultant. that has full cost recovery through the approval of TC Energy. It is not the replacement of Ainley's.
And that was the similar arrangement that we had with Kirsten.
I
Yeah.
believe so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she was an
Yeah.
employee, yeah.
So if somebody is hired by the municipality as a consultant, is that not something that there should be an RFP for and an opportunity for people to bid on the project?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Again, July 7th, the report that went to council indicated that the business plan to single source, was approved by council. It was in the report on July the 7th.
And then the issue around all of the expenses that PSAC may want to incur having to be approved by TCE beforehand because their spending is audited by the province, because ultimately it's the province paying for it and taxpayers, flies in the face of the assumptions from the very beginning when they stood up and said TCE is going to pay for all of this. So let's just be clear, it's taxpayers that are paying for this, not TCE. You guys talked about the fact that there are no environmental reports yet, and that's why you haven't seen them. Clark stood up at a previous meeting and said that there are environmental reports, but the TCE is not willing to release them until the project is approved. So just a point of clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Adam?
I guess I'm just wanting to follow everything here. What was the question?
I guess there were, well, certainly there was a question about Kim's role.
Yeah, and with I guess the second part, I'm not concise on what the question was.
Are we concerned about the fact that we aren't getting to spend, the PSAC isn't, and council aren't getting to spend at their own discretion, that they have to get approval from TCE for those expenses? So is that a concern? Is there something that we want to do about that?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Shirley?
If I may add, Mr. Chair, I think this will all get fleshed out through the community benefit agreement process. I think if we can just allow a little time for that work to be accomplished, we'll all have a better understanding of how the dollars will flow and what sorts of things that may be covered. I mean, the word that's used has been used up until now is reasonable, so that's a bit interpretive. So that's why we need to get this all tied down in the community benefit agreement.
Yep, Jenny?
Just a follow-up question, actually, where's that at? That whole community benefit agreement?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Member Ellis, we're really just in the beginning stages of getting ready to have those negotiations, which is part of the reason that Kim has joined the team. Sean will want to add to that, but I think my personal feeling is that we're in a very positive position right now with TC Energy. As Sean spoke to, the relationship, it has been repaired. It has been reinstated when the relationship was absent for many, many months. So I think Sean has worked incredibly hard to work with all of the executive members of TC and to rebuild that. So I think we're in a good position now to begin those conversations. And as I say, that will be a big part of Kim's role going forward.
Okay, so maybe I'm wording it wrong. That bylaw that you're wanting to do. Okay. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
I think I supported nothing, so.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Member Ellis, I apologize. I didn't pick up on your thinking. The bylaw, there will be a report coming back to council in September. We did have the public meeting at Meaford Hall where members of the public had opportunity to comment on the bylaw as it currently exists. And staff have taken all of that information along with the comments from council and working with our planning staff as well. And a report will be formulated and will be presented to council in September.
Any more questions? Before I get to the next one, so we finally had some public questions. We're not gonna like all of the public questions, but we're gonna hear them and respond in the appropriate way. That's our role here, right? And I get it, and it makes sense that we don't necessarily answer them on the fly, but I think we owe it to the public because we want them to come here, that we will get back and answer questions the best we can. I think that makes sense to you, Sean?
Total sense.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Okay, the date of our next meeting, we're all on vacation in August. So the date of our next meeting is Thursday, September 11th, at 5 o'clock. If there's nothing else, I will declare the meeting adjourned.